My mom called while I was in the hospital. Can you babysit this weekend? Your sister needs a break. I had just had emergency surgery. I said, I'm literally lying in a hospital bed. She replied, so you're not dying. Stop being dramatic. Then she hung up. I stared at the ceiling for a minute. Then I called my bank. Remove me from the $30,000 loan I co-signed for my sister. 10 minutes later, my mom called back. 47 times. The medication pump clicks every few seconds like a metronome for pain. The clock above the door reads 9:13 p.m. My abdomen feels like someone stirred my organs with a spoon. Emergency surgery, the surgeon had said. Appendix was close to rupturing. A lot of infection. Good timing, he'd added with a small smile. My phone vibrates against the rolling tray, lighting up the dark room. Mom, of course. I press accept because anesthesia makes you weirdly hopeful. Hey, I croak. My throat feels like sandpaper. She doesn't say hello. Chris, can you babysit this weekend? Your sister needs a break. For a moment, I think I heard her wrong. I glance at the 4 in my hand, the blood pressure cuff squeezing my arm, the pulse oximeter clipped to my finger, the hospital bracelet around my wrist. Christopher Hall, 35, postoperative. I'm literally in a hospital bed. I say, I had emergency surgery 3 hours ago. My voice sounds strangely calm, like I'm presenting a case. I'm a psychologist. I'm supposed to know how to name reality. Mom sighs, irritated. Okay, but that's Friday. This is only Tuesday. You'll be home by then. Melissa really needs a break. Chris, you know how hard she has it. I stare at the small dry erase board where a nurse wrote my pain level earlier. August 10th. Right now, it's a solid 9. Mom, they removed my appendix, I say. I'll have stitches. I can't pick up her kids. You're not dying, she snaps. Stop being dramatic. My mouth goes dry in a completely new way. There it is. The family script. I'm not being dramatic, I say slowly. I'm telling you, it was surgery. In the corner, on the plastic chair, sits Nora's backpack. My daughter's unicorn keychain hangs from the zipper. She left it behind when my neighbor rushed her home after they wheeled me into the operating room. Mom keeps going. Melissa is exhausted. She's been crying on the phone. 3 kids, no help. Connor is always at work, and you're just lying there doing nothing. I'm recovering from surgery. From an appendix, I repeat. She says it like I had a hangnail removed. They do those laparoscopic. You're home in a day. This is why we say you overthink everything. You're always in crisis mode. Just say yes and be supportive for once. The frustration crawls up my neck. I physically can't lift more than 10 pounds. Your grandchildren weigh more than that, I say. She huffs. You're a psychologist. You sit in a chair all day. You can sit in a chair with kids there. We all make sacrifices for family. Your sister would do it for you. Interesting. Melissa has never done anything for me that didn't come with an invoice. I'm not babysitting this weekend, I say. I'm not committing to anything while I'm in a hospital bed. There's a sharp silence. Then she uses that voice, the one meant to sound reasonable, but somehow sharper than yelling. Well, she says sweetly, I see. When the bank called about that $30,000 loan, you didn't overthink that. You signed. You said you'd be there for your sister. Apparently, that was just talk. My stomach twists. The loan. I swallow. They're not the same thing. Whatever. She snaps. You know what? I'm done talking about this. You're selfish. You're ungrateful. And you wonder why you're alone. Melissa is drowning. And you're lying there acting like my surgery was nothing. She lets out a sharp breath. You're not dying. Stop being dramatic. Then she hangs up. The call drops. The room hums. A monitor beeps. A cart squeaks down the hallway. Someone laughs in the distance. Inside my head, everything goes very, very quiet. My hands are cold. My spine feels hollow. My brain does what it always does when a client talks about a crisis. It starts counting. 45 minutes in the ER before they drew blood. Hours from the first pain to surgery. 3 days of PTO gone. $30,000 of debt with my name attached. I stare at the blank ceiling. Nora's crayon drawing is taped to the rail. A crooked heart with Dad written in shaky letters. I hear my therapist's voice in my head, the one I use in sessions. If a client told you this story, Chris, what would you say? I don't scream. I don't cry. I reach for my phone, my thumb clumsy against the screen. I open my banking app and find the number, Lakeview Community Credit Union, Loan Services. When a representative answers, I speak calmly. Hi, my name is Christopher Hall. I'm calling about the $30,000 personal loan I co-signed for my sister, Melissa Reed. I need to change my involvement. I want out. 10 minutes later, my mom has called 47 times. I'm 35. I live in a one-bedroom apartment in Chicago with my 5-year-old daughter, Nora, and far too many therapy books. By day, I'm Dr. Hall, a staff psychologist at a community mental health clinic. By night, I'm the guy who crashes on the couch with a box of chicken nuggets and something mindless on TV. By birth order, I'm the responsible one. My parents call it being the strong one. What they really mean is the one they lean on until he bends too far. My sister Melissa is 3 years younger. Growing up, she was labeled sensitive and I was labeled stable. That was our family vocabulary. When Melissa had a meltdown, she was overwhelmed. When I got upset, I was being dramatic. If Melissa forgot her chores, Mom would say, she's distracted. Poor thing. If I forgot, Dad would say, you're lazy. You know better. We grew up in a small house in Joliet. Dad drove trucks, and Mom handled bookkeeping for a dentist. We weren't wealthy, but we never went without food. In our house, the real currency wasn't money. It was obedience. Family helps, Mom would always say. Don't make a scene. Be smooth about it. Smooth things over. Don't push back. Swallow it. The first time I covered for Melissa, I was 17. She came home drunk from a party and threw up on the hallway carpet. The next morning, Mom pulled me aside. Don't tell your father, she said. Just keep an eye on her. You're good with kids. You can guide her. Guide her really meant protect her. Clean up after her. When I was in college and came home on weekends, Melissa would leave her toddler, Owen, at the door with a diaper bag and a quick wave. I just need to run some errands, she'd say. Errands usually meant disappearing for 4 hours and coming back smelling like vodka. If I hesitated, Mom would gently remind me, she's a single mom, Chris. We help. You're not selfish, are you? When Nora was born, I moved back home for a while. My ex, Danny, and I fell apart quietly when Nora turned 1. Being a therapist doesn't make you immune to making a mess of your own relationship. For the record, I was working 40 hours a week at the clinic and taking extra telehealth clients at night. Melissa had started calling it free daycare. Just drop Nora at Mom's, she'd say. They're home anyway. I have a hair appointment. If I ever mentioned being tired, Dad would laugh. You sit in a chair and talk all day, son. Your sister's on her feet with 3 kids. By the time Melissa married Connor, the story was already set. Melissa struggles. Chris manages. Whenever money came up, it followed the same script. Money is just numbers, Mom would say. Family is priceless. We don't nickel and dime each other. Which really meant Melissa didn't repay people. Last spring, she called me, her voice high and shaky. Chris, you're the only one who understands credit stuff. I was in my office between sessions, eating a granola bar over my notes. What happened? I asked. She launched into a long explanation about unfair interest rates, medical bills, daycare costs, and a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to combine everything into one simple loan. It's only $30,000, she said, only. We'll go through Lakeview. They said I just need a co-signer. Connor's credit is, and Mom and Dad are too old. They said you'd qualify easily. My stomach dropped in that familiar way. The space between I know this is a bad idea and they'll hate me if I refuse. I really can't, I said at first. My credit is the only solid thing I have. She started crying. Real tears or strategic. Hard to tell through a phone. I'm drowning, Chris, she said. Do you want my kids to lose their house? Is it better for Nora to watch her cousins get evicted while their uncle protects his perfect credit score? In the background, I heard Mom's voice. Put me on, she said. Chris, Mom's voice came through calm and steady. Your sister is in trouble. Lakeview is a community bank, not some giant corporation. You're helping your family. You're investing in your niece and nephew's future. You can't be that cold. I had a client in 8 minutes. I'd slept 4 hours the night before. My brain, the same brain that coaches clients about boundaries, folded like a lawn chair. 2 days later, I was sitting in a small office at Lakeview. The loan officer slid the papers across the desk. Principal, $30,000. Interest, 8.9%. Term, 60 months. He smiled. If she pays on time, it's no problem. Co-signers rarely end up responsible. It just helps with underwriting. I signed. Outside the branch, Melissa hugged me so tight it hurt my ribs. You're saving us, Chris, she said. You won't regret this. 3 months later, the first late payment notice arrived. Just a mix-up, she said. I switched accounts. Don't go into crisis mode. You're always so intense. I paid half because the notice had both our names on it, and my heart rate shot up. I told myself it was temporary. I thought it was temporary. It wasn't. Back in the hospital, after I told the bank I wanted out, everything felt like it was moving both fast and slow. A co-signer release was possible. The loan rep, her name was Dana, had a soft Midwestern accent and a voice people naturally trusted. We can mail you the packet, she said. Your sister would have to qualify on her own. Income verification, credit check. Until then, you're still legally responsible. But this will put a flag on the account. No increases, no restructuring without your consent. A flag. Not perfect, but something. Do it, I said. We'll also make a note that all communication should come directly to you as well, Dana added. Email or mail, not through third parties. That would be great, I say. And can you send me the payment history? Of course. I hang up. My call log looks insane. 47 missed calls from Mom. 12 from home. 6 from Melissa. Text notifications pile up on my lock screen like a slot machine. Mom, what did you just do? Mom, call me now. Melissa, what? Chris. Melissa. Dana from the bank just called me at dinner. Melissa, are you trying to ruin everything for us? I take screenshots. Habit. Evidence. My heart is pounding, but the adrenaline feels different this time. Not panic, clarity. A nurse walks in to check my vitals. You okay? She asks, glancing at my pulse. Family, I say. She nods like that explains everything. Later that night, when the medication makes my head spin, I switch my phone to do not disturb and let them yell into silence. Wave 1 hits the next morning at 7:02 a.m. I answer because I'm tired and stupid. What did you do? Mam de mans, no greeting. I call the bank. I say, I asked for a co-signer release packet. I requested that full statements be sent directly to me. You blindsided your sister. I protected myself. I correct. You made her cry. Mom says like that's a crime. She was a target when the bank representative called. Do you know how embarrassing that was? Was it more embarrassing than being told to babysit while I'm hooked up to 4 antibiotics? She ignores that. We've always handled things as a family, she says. We talk. We don't involve outsiders. The outsider is a federally regulated financial institution. Mom, this isn't a family discussion. It's a $30,000 legal obligation with my name on it. I'm not comfortable being tied to it anymore. You can't just decide that, she snaps. I can start the process, I say. And I did. You're overreacting. Just like always. Melissa is trying. She missed a few payments. 3, I say. In 6 months. With late fees. There's a pause. Then comes the guilt. She's fragile, Mom says. You know how she is. You're the strong one. You don't fall apart over every little stressor. That's why we lean on you. That's why family works. My incision throbs. My strength isn't a permission slip. I say. I'm done being leaned on like a piece of furniture. Unbelievable, she mutters. I raise someone selfish. Cold-hearted. I hit end. Wave 2 comes 3 days after I'm discharged. I'm home, shuffling around my apartment in sweatpants, trying not to sneeze because it feels like my abdomen might split open. Nora is on the couch, focused on a puzzle. Daddy, look, she says, holding up 2 pieces. These go together. You're right, I say, my chest easing. Good problem solving. There's a sharp knock at the door. Repeated. Nora flinches. Is Grandma coming? She asks. Stay here, I tell her. I check the peephole. Mom. Melissa. Of course. I open the door just enough to step into the hallway, keeping the safety chain on. You drove an hour to my building without any warning? I say. Mom's eyes skim over my hunched posture, the drain bag visible beneath my shirt. She doesn't react. Melissa's mascara is smudged. She balances a toddler on one hip, another clinging to her leg. The oldest, Tyler, scrolls on a tablet. "You're ruining my life," Melissa blurts. "Hi, Chris," Mom says stiffly. "We need to talk about what you did at the bank." I feel my pulse thudding against my stitches. Now is not a good time. "I am recovering. Email me." "Email." Melissa repeats, like I suggested interpretive dance. "We're family. You don't email family. What do you want?" I ask. Mom exhales sharply. "We need you to call the bank back and say you were confused. That you don't actually want off the loan. That you support your sister." "No," I say. "You don't even understand what this is going to do to her credit," Mom says. "I know exactly what it's doing to mine," I answer. Melissa shifts the toddler, her voice rising. "They're going to make me reapply, Chris. They're going to look at Connor's income. We might not qualify. We could lose the house. The house you bought with a loan you can't afford," I say, my name attached to it like a bandage that doesn't belong. She glares at me. "You think you're better than us because you went to school? Because you sit in your little therapist chair? You think you're above money problems?" My jaw tightens. "I think actions have consequences," I reply. "I think signing legal documents actually matters." Mom steps closer. "If this loan falls through, I will never forgive you. We will all know exactly why your sister lost her home." I glance back into the apartment. Nora is on the couch, holding a puzzle piece, her eyes wide and uncertain. "See," Melissa says, noticing her. "This is what I mean. Your kid is fine. She has one parent. Mine have two, and we're drowning. You could help, but you're choosing not to. There it is. Choice, used like a weapon. I'm choosing not to destroy my future fixing problems I didn't create," I say. Melissa's lip curls. "You know what? If you don't undo this, I'll make sure everyone at your precious clinic knows what kind of person you really are. I'll tell them you scream at your family. I'll tell them you're unstable. You think they want a terrible therapist working there." The old panic rises, reputation, license, everything I work for. Then I remember something from ethics class. Therapists don't lose their jobs because family members send unhinged emails. And I have proof. "Please leave," I say. "Now." Mom narrows her eyes. "Don't threaten us with calling the police, Christopher. We're not criminals. We're family." "I didn't mention the police," I reply. "But thanks for the suggestion." I close the door and slide the deadbolt into place, even though my hands are shaking. Melissa's voice echoes down the hallway. "I'm done with you. Enjoy your perfect little life, you selfish." The rest fades away. Nora walks over slowly, clutching her puzzle piece. "Are you in trouble?" she whispers. "No," I say, crouching carefully so my stitches don't pull. "I'm not in trouble. Some adults are making bad decisions. That's not your fault, and it's not mine." That night, I create a new folder on my laptop. Family receipts. Screenshots of missed calls. Photos of the signed loan documents. The email from Dana confirming the cosigner release process. A note on my phone. Threatened to contact workplace. 3:18 p.m. outside my apartment. That's the moment I stop arguing and start documenting. 2 weeks later, I receive an email from Lakeview. Subject: delinquency notice, co-signed loan. I open it with that familiar mix of dread and inevitability. "Dear Mr. Hall, this letter is to inform you that your co-signed account ending in 4729 is now 60 days past due. 2 full payments." My chest tightens, not a panic attack, just anger tight. I call Dana. "Thanks for sending this," I say. "Can you also email me a full payment history and any notes on the account?" "Of course," she says. "I do see here that Ms. Reed mentioned she was counting on additional support from family." Of course she did. "Please note," I say, "that I will not be making payments on her behalf. I'm pursuing the cosigner release and would like to explore any options for protecting my credit." "I'll add a note," she says. Phone down, hands shaking. I take a breath and do the thing I've been avoiding. I call a lawyer. Her name is Patel, Financial and Consumer Protection. Her assistant gets me a Zoom slot for the next day. On the call, I lay it all out. The emergency surgery, the babysitting demand, the $30,000 loan, the late notices, the threats. Patel is unimpressed in the best way. She takes notes, asks precise questions. "Has your sister ever used your information without your consent?" she asks. Yes, I say slowly. About a year ago, she opened a store card and put me down as an authorized user without asking. I found out when a card came in the mail. I called and removed myself. They said it happens all the time. Did you keep the letter? I open my folder. Click. Hold it up to the camera. Excellent, Patel says. Here's what we're going to do. She explains it like a treatment plan. Step 1, pull all 3 of my credit reports. Step 2, place a fraud alert and credit freeze. Step 3, send certified letters to Lakeview and any creditor stating that no one is authorized to open accounts, increase limits, or otherwise use my information without my explicit written consent. Step 4, send a cease and desist letter to my family regarding harassment and threats about my workplace. You can do that? I ask. Absolutely. Harassment is harassment, even if they share your DNA, she says. After the call, she emails me drafts. The language is cold and precise. Any further unauthorized use of my personal information will be reported as identity theft. Any further attempts to contact my employer or colleagues will be documented and forwarded to legal counsel. I read it 3 times. I have my digital signature. We sent it certified, return receipt requested. 3 days later, Christmas comes early. I'm making Nora mac and cheese when there's pounding on my apartment door. Not knock. Pounding. Nora jumps, her fork clattering. I look through the peephole. Dad this time. And Mom. Great, Dad. I open the door with the chain on again. Dad's face is red. Did you seriously send us a lawyer letter? He demands, waving the envelope like it's a bomb. Yes, I say. Mom's lips are thin. You're threatening your own mother with legal action. The letter doesn't mention you by name, I say. It mentions family members who threatened to contact my employer or use my personal information without consent. Dad jabs a finger at me. You think you're better than us, he says. People have hard times. We help each other. We don't sick lawyers on each other. We don't act like strangers. You've been acting like strangers for years, I say quietly. Mom snorts. Oh, because we asked you to watch your niece and nephews? Because we expected you to help with a loan you agreed to? No, I say. Because you told me a hospital bed that my surgery was not dying, so I should just suck it up and babysit. Because you've sold my time and my credit as if they belong to you. Because my sister threatened my job when I was only trying to protect myself. Dad's jaw clenches. You brought that on yourself. There's a flicker in my chest. Not doubt. Something closing behind me. I feel Nora's presence. She's hovering in the hallway. Try to make herself small. Is Grandpa mad? She whispers. I turn my head just enough to see her. I've got it, I say. Then I look back at my parents and say one sentence. Any further contact about Melissa's loan or childcare goes through my lawyer. Dad laughs. Ugly. You're going to call the cops on your own father? He says. If you show up here and refuse to leave, I reply yes. For a moment, everything freezes. Then Mom's face twists. I don't even recognize you, she says. This is what therapy did. Turned you against your own family. No, I say. You did that all by yourselves. She inhales sharply. Come on, she hisses to Dad. Let's go. Before he can call 911 on his poor old parents, they stomp down the hall. Dad shouts over his shoulder. When Melissa is homeless, remember you did that. The elevator door closes on his voice. I stand there for a moment, shaking, then close the door. Lock. Deadbolt. Nora pads over in her socks. Are we in trouble now? She asks. I kneel slowly, one hand on my stitches. No, I say. We're safe. That's what this is about. She leans into me. Are they mad at me? No, honey, I say. They're mad at me because I said no. We stay like that for a second. My phone buzzes. A new email from Officer Ramirez. Subject: Incident report number 23 to 1142. I'd gone to the station earlier that day, at Patel's suggestion, to file a preventative report about harassment and threats, just in case. The officer had listened, jotted down notes, and given me the number. Sometimes just knowing there's a paper trail calms people down, he'd said. Sometimes it doesn't, I'd replied. Now the number is in my inbox, solid and official. I forward it to Patel. I don't scream. I don't beg. I do the irreversible thing. I freeze my credit. I block my parents' numbers. I remove them from Nora's school pickup list. And in the family group chat, I send one final, clean message. Effective immediately, I will no longer provide childcare or financial support to Melissa or anyone else. Do not include me on any loans, applications, or forms. Any further attempts to use my information or contact my employer will go through my attorney. This is not open for discussion. I then leave the chat. The silence is heavy at first. My phone feels strangely light without the buzzing, emergencies, and small favors that used to take up 3 hours. I keep expecting another knock, another letter, another explosion. Instead, life slowly settles. I return to the clinic on light duty. Dr. Lee shows me Melissa's rant email, then shrugs. We all have families. This doesn't affect your work. You're a good clinician, Chris. We know the difference between a boundary and a breakdown. At home, Nora adjusts faster than I do. We build Lego, practice letters, and dance in the kitchen when my abdomen allows. Grandma used to call a lot, she says on the way home from preschool. Yeah, she doesn't now. No, I like it when it's just us. 2 months later, a card arrives. Family forgives. Don't punish the kids. Smooth things over. No epalegi. No mention of the hospital or the loan. A text from Melissa follows. Kids want to see their uncle grow up. We're family. I type one line. I'm not available for that.